go to John in Washington, D.C. You're on with freaking Bill Bennett, John.
Hey, guys. I think there's been a lot of revisionist history. Reagan raised taxes, according to Alan Simpson, 11 times, including the payroll tax instead of privatizing Social Security. He raised taxes that we're all still paying today for that. He supported the assault weapons ban and the Brady Bill. He sold weapons. In fact, he negotiated with terrorists in selling weapons to Iran in exchange for the release of hostages. He was a cut-and-runner that ran from Beirut. He gave amnesty to millions of illegals that were here, well, illegally. You know, he said, lawbreakers, forget about it, just stay here. There's a lot of things that Reagan did that would make it impossible for him to be elected by today's Republican Party. Yet here y'all are.
Just curious, do you admire Reagan? Do you like Reagan?
No, not at all.
You don't think he was a great president?
No. In fact, I remember in the 90s, Jimmy Carter had higher approval ratings than Reagan did. But that's when people remembered what Reagan did to this country.
Just a second, John. I'm not trying to cut you off, because this is very interesting in a couple of ways. Let me get Byron's reaction first, and I'll give you mine.
Well, first of all, some of those things that he mentioned were mistakes that Reagan made, and I can't imagine, for example, on the amnesty deal, he would have, in retrospect, said that was a good idea. Certainly on some of the taxes, the 86 tax deal really tightened the tax code and took away a lot of tax deductions that people had. I believe at the time the interest you paid on your credit card was tax deductible, and that was ended. So that had the effect of raising taxes on people. On the other hand, I think in retrospect, Reagan has two great legacies, which was economic recovery and bigger, the winning of the Cold War. And when you look back at most presidents don't have any legacy. Some have one, some have really bad ones. Lyndon Johnson comes to mind, but Reagan had these two great legacies, which I think overshadow everything else.
Thank you, John. Let me just tell you, I was on CNN yesterday. Not that you should watch it, but let's put John back. And I said almost exactly the same thing you did, except with a different conclusion. I said I think he is a great president, one of our greatest presidents. But I pointed out exactly what you pointed out about the tax increase, the amnesty bill, which was amnesty for illegals. I also pointed out he signed as governor a bill providing for abortion, largest state in the country doing that. Also to be pointed out, he nominated Sandra Day O'Connor and Anthony Kennedy to the court. And that these are all things which I think you're right would be a problem for a Republican conservative running today if that were the record. And my point here is to say we cannot mythologize the guy. You take a man in the totality of his acts, and I think as Byron just said, those two legacies are very, very important and valuable. But I think your point is right. I just think your conclusion.
Well, I do want to address what Byron said. He said, he left a lasting legacy of a great economy. Well, I haven't forgotten the huge recession that cost his successor his election. That'd be George Bush. The economy didn't recover until Bill Clinton came back and, balanced the budget and did all the rest. And the other big thing, the big lie, I think, is that Reagan destroyed communism. He said some good things about it being necessary to destroy communism. But communism, I thought y'all would agree with me, was always destined to fail under its own weight. And it did fail under its own weight. They always...
Thanks, John.
Thanks.
He was a big push, and he was the push. He was the only push, and I mentioned this yesterday, too. Pope John Paul, Margaret Thatcher, but we outspent the Soviets. We just outspent him. He refused to give up SDI. They couldn't keep up, he stopped them. They used to say, what we have, we keep, and even in Little Grenada, he showed that wasn't the case. Byron, you want to respond on the economic stuff?
Well, on the economic stuff, when Reagan took office, I think the top tax rate was about 70%.
That's right.
And he reduced that to 28%, and I think that is a lasting, even as taxes creep upward, and because taxes are not in the Constitution, they can be raised up and down by acts of Congress. So I think that lower taxes in general, I think, is a definite legacy. On the Cold War, remember, when he told his advisors, just upon entering office, I've got a theory about the Cold War. You want to hear it? Yes, sir. We win, they lose.
That's it. That's
that
right.
was an extraordinary approach to the Cold War at that time.
I just want to make the summary point here, John, and I hope you feel we gave you enough airtime. The point you make is that the mythologization of Ronald Reagan is a problem, because people are saying, Byron, now, all these people, well, what would Reagan do, what would Reagan do? Well, Reagan did some stuff which was heterodox, which was not, conservative orthodoxy. But, guys err, guys make mistakes, guys also deviate from a pure party line and can still be great. That's my point, Byron.
James Baker actually addressed that yesterday in his speech at the Reagan Library, which was basically saying that Reagan held his convictions more strongly than any person Baker ever met, but he did know that politics was the art of the possible, and he did make these various deals, some of which maybe Baker approved of, and we don't, but it was Reagan did turn his ideas into political action, which involved making deals with the other side.
I think, too, one has to say that given the celebration of his life and his times, even now by those who were vociferously critical of him, the general recognition of his achievements, I think, is agreed to. Byron, last comment, we'll let you go.
No, there's no doubt about it. I think, when someone is gone and they pass into history and you have years to look at them, and by the way, we're learning a lot more about Reagan in the last 10 years with the publication of his diaries, of his letters, of the radio addresses that he wrote himself in his own hand. The totality of a person comes out, and I still think that he has overall that big legacy.
Yeah, no question about it. Thank you. You got a big legacy on this show. Thanks for getting up early with us.
Thanks, Bill. It's great to be here.
All right, Byron. Terrific. We appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you, John.